Well, crossing straight to the Premier League, right? So, Crystal Palace won, Luton Town won. So, Luton Town were able to grab a late draw at Crystal Palace, whereas Bournemouth earned a point at the death, against Sheffield United. Whereas, in other action, we saw Wolverhampton Wanderers beating Fulham. So Crystal Palace, they led Luton Town for most of, that Premier League encounter on Saturday, only to concede a late equaliser. While Bournemouth, did something very unlikely, coming from 2 goals down, to actually grab a point against Sheffield United on the South Coast. Whilst elsewhere, Fulham also scored in stoppage time, but it could not prevent them from suffering a defeat at the hands of Wolverhampton Wanderers at the Molineux. So Crystal Palace, they looked set, to actually continue their good run of form under the new manager, Oliver Glasner. But they had to actually settle for a 1-1 draw with relegation threatened Luton Town on Saturday afternoon. It was actually Jean-Philippe Mateta's 11th minute strike that looks set to be the difference, with a backheel volley to actually convert a Daniel Munoz cross after he had intercepted a back pass. And from that particular moment in time, in added time, former Palace winger Andres Townsend found Cauley Woodrow, who guided the ball into the net for the late equaliser for Luton. And Palace now have a win and 2 draws from their last 4 matches. And a point for Palace now leaves them in 14th place, while Luton are now in 18th spot, just 3 points behind Nottingham Forest above them. As for Gary O'Neill's impressive stint as the Wolverhampton Wanderers manager, endured as a second half goals from Ryan At-Nouri, turning in a cross at the near post, and then Nelson Semedo gave the Black County side a 2-1 victory over the Londoners Fulham, as a late Alexis Mac strike set up a tense finish at the Molineux Stadium. Basically, that result now means that Wolverhampton Wanderers sit in 8th position following the win, whereas Marco Silva's men still remain in 12th position, I meant to say. So Wolverhampton Wanderers are basically in 8th position on the table, and Marco Silva's men, Fulham, they're now in 12th. So Sheffield United as well blew a 2-0 lead at mid-table Bournemouth, as they looked on course to react well after that 6-0 drubbing of Arsenal at home on Monday night. However, we did see also the Blades boss, Chris Wilder, gave a Premier League debut to 19-year-old Oli Ablaster amid suggestions that the team would start to prioritize younger players ahead of an anticipated summer clear-out. And 26-year-old Gustavo Hammer, gave the visitors the lead midway through the first half. And then we saw Jack Robinson made it 2-0 on 64 minutes before Dango Altara, pulled one back 10 minutes later to prompt a nervy end to the game. Bournemouth pressed on for an equalizer in the stoppage time, and Eres Unal had a shot cleared off, the line before he picked home with the rebound. Basically, now the result means that Sheffield United are now 19th on 14th points, 10 points from safety, while Bournemouth are on 13th. They're basically 13th on the log with only 32 points. So that's what it is in the Premier League, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it is on the Premier League. And again, man, I guess it's still too early to be talking about transfers, because we've already passed the January transfer windows. But remember, we are getting nearing the end to the season. So it has been reported that Manchester United and Newcastle United are battling for, the 87 million euro Valencia youngster Javi Guerra. So Manchester United and Newcastle United are both tracking Valencia midfielder Javi Guerra, who is said to be valued at 87 million euros, while Real Madrid are weighing up Roberto De Zerbi or Xabi Alonso as their replacement for Carlo Ancelotti. Elsewhere, Tottenham have welcomed back Andres Townsend to the club, but it may not be for a permanent transfer. United will face an uphill battle, for Guerra, to say the least, because Newcastle United and Manchester United are both keen on Valencia's Javi Guerra, who is valued at 87 million pounds, almost close to 90 million pounds. And it has been stated by Football is a Religion that Manchester United and Newcastle United have sent scouts, to watch every game involving the La Liga star, Javi Guerra. And the 20-year-old Valencia ace, is garnering attention across Europe, and has seemingly caught the attention of the Premier League duo. It is easy to see why, both Premier League clubs, are interested, as, there will be an update, on the likes of Scott McTominay and Sean Longstaff going forward. But Guerra has an 87 million euro release clause and has another 4 years left on his contract. So they will have to pay a hefty amount of money, if they really want to sign him, right? And on the other side, we see Real Madrid are considering De Zerbi as Ancelotti's replacement. So Mikezo Arena, reports on the two potential replacement for Carlo Ancelotti, who is in his last year of his contract at Real Madrid. And Real Madrid are weighing in a swap, for Brighton's Roberto De Zerbi as they, consider successors for Carlo Ancelotti. So the Italian second spell at the Bernabeu will end in 2024 when the current campaign draws to a close. Ancelotti really has been at Los Blancos for the past 2 years, leading them to Champions League glory, but will soon part ways with the Spanish giants. And De Zerbi drew particular praise for his style of football, with the likes of Pep Guardiola hailing his qualities. And this term, Brighton have won 5 of their last 6 games, with the 44-year-old's stock continuing to rise, capturing the attention of Europe's most decorated outfit. Bayer Leverkusen boss Xabi Alonso is currently seen as the favorite. However, the Spaniard, who began his managerial career at, former club Real Sociedad, took the jump to Bundesliga last term and steered the club out of relegation before impressing in the early season. So those are your news, man. And those are also news from the Premier League, basic results. And we've also heard that Andros Townsend is training with Tottenham Hotspurs. Remember, Andros Townsend, he searches for a new club due to the fact that now there's no indication that Ante Postecoglou will offer him a deal. And the former international, England international, Andros Townsend, is training at Tottenham Hotspur. Basically, he will be returning to a club that he left in 2016, as it can be reported by the way that Andros Townsend is a free agent after leaving Everton in the summer and had, a loan spell with Burnley, who decided against offering the 32-year-old a contract. So Tottenham have also opened the door, to their state-of-art, headquarters in Anfield to Townsend, who came through their academy after joining as an 8-year-old. For now, Townsend is training with a view to maintaining his fitness as he seeks to return to professional football, and there is no indication that head coach Ante Postecoglou is even considering handing him a contract. Okay, well, we'll see more about that. We hope that all goes well for Andros Townsend. We just hope that all goes well for him, because he is a great player. Yes, I know he's a veteran. Yeah, age might not be on his side, but at the end of the day, man, he is a great player. He's a wonderful player to actually watch. He's really a decorated player, to say the least. A player of his caliber. I do wish the best for him. I hope he does return very soon. And hopefully what we could just say is that, we will see what Tottenham decide, with regards to his future in, the next couple of days or weeks or so, right? So we will also get straight to the fact that we'll go back to Old Trafford. Manchester United defeating Everton by 2-0. Marcus Rashford, was on target once again, as Manchester United were able to boost up their top 4 hopes. And it was actually a matter of Manchester United scored 2 first-half penalties, which were just enough for Manchester United to collect a 2-0 victory against Everton in the Premier League at Old Trafford. And those penalties were won by Alejandro Garnacho. He's the one who actually won both of the penalties. And Bruno Fernandes converted the first with 12 minutes on the clock before Marcus Rashford doubled the advantage, on 36 minutes. So that particular result now leaves Manchester United just 3 points behind Spurs in 5th position. And they are just 8 shy of Aston Villa, who are still in 4th position. Everton, remember in the reverse fixture, Garnacho scored that, wonder goal, that wonder strike against Everton, at Goodison Park. And in this particular encounter at Old Trafford, Everton, paid their penalty, they paid a hefty price, as the penalty at Old Trafford, was converted, by Bruno Fernandes as well as Marcus Rashford, as the Red Devils secured a comfortable 2-0 victory that condemned the visitors to an 11th Premier League match without a victory. Erik ten Hag's side, bounced back strongly from their 3-1 defeat at Burnley. From their 3-1 defeat, in the derby rivals Manchester City last week, with Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford converting the spot kicks, as Manchester United closed the gap on 5th place Tottenham just to 3 points. And we know Sean Dykes' Everton enjoyed plenty of possession. Remember, it was even the same. Everton were the better side even at Goodison Park when these sides last met, early on in the season. When Garnacho scored that brilliant goal, Everton were the better side. Even now in this particular encounter against Manchester United at Old Trafford, Everton were the better side. They had more of the possession, but they did not provide any sort of clinical edge. And they were their own worst enemies, as James Tarkowski, fouled Alejandro Garnacho to concede the first penalty before Ben Godfrey did likewise with another ill-advised challenge, on the Manchester United forward, So the visitors have only won once at Old Trafford in 31 outings in the league and remain fifth from bottom on the table. Just 5 points clear of third from bottom Luton Town, who have played 2 games fewer. United next host fierce rivals Liverpool in the FA Cup quarterfinals next Sunday, while Everton have a 3-week break, to regroup before their chase, at an elusive first league win over, the year at Bournemouth on March the 30th. And what I can just say, man, based on today's performance, Manchester United, they won the game, but I'm just still not convinced, man. I'm really not convinced. I guess those penalties were enough. I guess Everton were their own worst enemies because they just conceded penalties that were not unnecessary. Both of those fouls that were on Garnacho were just not necessary at all. They were so unnecessary. And that's the reason why Everton have had the season that they've had, because defensively they have just been, failing. They haven't just been, they haven't had that solid structure, at the back. And that's the reason why they end up conceding unnecessary goals. They concede unnecessary penalties. And that's exactly what we saw in this game. Because, look, Manchester United, despite another unconvincing performance, what matters at the end of the day is just the result. And I can just tell that Erik ten Hag's side, they still clearly believe that they can, reel in Tottenham and Aston Villa to finish, in the Champions League spots. But it doesn't seem to be a realistic aim. Because I think Manchester United have to chalk off the wins and hope the team above them, start dropping points. And what I can tell is that United have unfortunately put themselves in this position, and they are going to have to rely on other people to give them a chance of qualifying for the Champions League next season. Because I don't see Tottenham and Aston Villa really slipping up, And, United really do face an uphill struggle, because they are opening matches after apparently facing 134 shots in the past 6 games. So I sincerely don't think Manchester United will make it in the top 4. They have to win almost every game to do so. And we know that's not possible with Manchester United because they're very inconsistent. And I really don't see them winning every game. But it's going to be very difficult. And it's easy for the teams to get opportunities against them. And what I can just say is that, congratulations to Alejandro Garnacho. He is my man of the match. I mean, he put in a solid performance. Remember, he did score the goal of the season in the reverse fixture, with the glorious overhead kick at Goodison Park in a 3-0 victory for Man United. And again, he provided, telling moments at Old Trafford by earning his side 2 penalties in the first half. That provided the platform for a comfortable, home victory. And it was really an important victory for Manchester United. So basically every game is a final for them. They do want to be in the Champions League, but I don't see them getting into the Champions League. So that's too unrealistic for the Red Devils. Very unrealistic. And they just need to really focus more on at least the fact that they will be playing European football next season. I think that's what they should just focus on now. And Arsenal, the title chasers. Yeah, Arsenal 2, Brentford 1. And guess what? Kai Havertz, my boy Kai Havertz just did it once again. My boy Kai Havertz. Yeah, that's my boy, guys. Yeah, he did it once again. I used to be a Chelsea fan, but I used to be a big lover, a big fan of Kai Havertz. And he did it so once again, by scoring a dramatic late winner to send Arsenal top and keep their title hopes alive. So it was actually a dramatic late winner from Kai Havertz, which gave Arsenal a 2-1 victory over Brentford at their, Emirates Stadium. And it looked as though the Gunners, title hopes would be dealt a massive blow with the draw, but Havertz stepped up and a late finish, against a fine team, to move them up, to the top of the table with a crucial win. So basically Arsenal do move up, with a crucial win at the Emirates, to actually give them some much needed hope, to continue challenging for the title. With Liverpool and Manchester City facing off against each other at Anfield on Sunday, Arsenal really needed the 3 points. So it was an 86th minute winner from Kai Havertz, which earned Arsenal a huge 3 points in their bid to actually win the title by beating Brentford by 2-1. Havertz guided home a late header from a Ben White cross to settle an edgy game that Arsenal had dominated. So a header from Declan Rice gave Arsenal an early lead, only for it to be wiped out after an error by, Aaron Ramsdale in injury time in the first half. Johan Wissa blindsided Ramsdale to charge down a clearance and send it into the back of the net. Hey, the Congolese has been on fire since returning from the AFCON. He's been on fire, man. So Ramsdale redeemed himself in the second half with 2 fine saves from Ivan Toney as well as James Collins. And Rice, hit the crossbar as Arsenal, probed for a winning goal. Hey, Rice, what a brilliant signing he has been for the Gunners. And then from that particular moment in time on, we saw Havertz's late intervention made it 8 wins in a row, in the Premier League for Arsenal. They are now in first place in the table, with the next game away, to title rivals Manchester City at the Etihad. Woo! 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 It's getting heated. It's getting heated, ladies and gentlemen. It's really getting heated. But let's just say it, man. Arsenal, that emotional energy behind Arsenal's title challenge maybe can take them to clinching a title for the first time in 20 years. Maybe. There has been a lot of talk, about the displays of emotion of Arsenal's players both this season and last, as they really attempt to bring the title back to the club after 2 decades. Whether it's wild celebrations of goals well before victory is in the bag, or borrowing cameras to celebrate when it is, there is almost a febrile energy that is driving the current run of 8 wins. It seems a hybrid of the youthful vitality, of the squad and the manager and the crowd, baying for the title drought to be over. Many pointed to this being part of Arsenal's undoing on the run in the last season. This time round, could they make it work in their favor? I guess they can, because a huge staggering post in the title challenge is up when they face Man City next at the Etihad. And at a similar juncture, last season, a flat Arsenal could not lay a glove on City at the Etihad. This time around, their frenzied high-octane approach might, with an element of controlled application, yield something more positive. And, Martin Odegaard put in a great man of the match display. He was in the pocket between the Brentford midfield and defense. Odegaard, did what he pleased. His adroit use of the ball, moved quickly from left to right, forward and back again, wore Brentford down, over the course of the match. And what a brilliant performance again from the Norwegian. Can Arsenal do it again, guys? Can they? Can Arsenal do it again? I'm asking you guys, the viewers. Can they? Perhaps. Perhaps. Let's just give them a chance, man. We can. Premier League Super Sunday. We'll begin at the London Stadium. Okay? Basically, that's the east of London. Where we saw West Ham United, drawing with Burnley at home by 2 goals. It was a 2-all draw. 2-2 for West Ham, 2 for Burnley, right? So it was a 2-all draw, share of the spoils between these two sides that have contrasting fortunes and that have got different objectives come end of the season. West Ham, basically they're in the race to qualify for Europe, perhaps qualify for the Europa League next season, whereas Burnley are fighting for for survival in the Premier League. So it's a relegation scrap for Burnley, and it's a European it's a situation where West Ham United, the Hammers, are pursuing a European adventure next season, but perhaps Europa League, because they're far off the pace for Champions League. They're far off the pace. Well, it was actually the West Ham substitution, the former Burnley striker, Danny Ings, who stopped his former club Burnley from earning a rare win as the home side, fought back from a 2-0 down, in a pulsating Premier League game. It was very pulsating, to say the least. Ings, who had an effort ruled out, by the video assistant referee moments later before the equaliser, almost nickeled the winner, but saw his shot cannon off the crossbar even deeper into injury time. So, look, man, that's the nature of this particular encounter. Burnley, They still moved off the bottom three, with the draw, but they were still left to rule, dropping more points from a winning position. The Clarets were on course to just earn their first victory of the top flight season and the first victory in 10 attempts, through David Dacho Fofana as well as Konstantinos, Mavropanos, his own goal before halftime. And West Ham were liftless in a poor first half, where they just didn't even manage a shot on target. However, the Hammers, reappeared after the break, looking like a different side and pulled the goal back, within 30 seconds of the restart. We saw the midfielder Lucas Paqueta, showed the desire which had, obviously been missing to press Burnley high, winning back possession to go clean on goal and calmly stroke, past the Clarets goalkeeper James Trafford. And David Moyes' side, continued to press for a leveler, and Burnley looked set to hang on for victory until Ings' dramatic late intervention. So the draw moves Vincent Kompany's team back above Sheffield United in 19th place on goal difference, with both teams remaining 10 points adrift of safety with 10 games remaining. So, yeah, man, victory is very important at this particular moment in time, and you cannot afford to drop more points. And now West Ham United, who are aiming for a third straight league victory, now remain in 7th position. And look, the relationship between the selection of players from the West Ham fan base and their manager always feels to be fractious, meaning a home defeat by Burnley would have further fueled Moyes' detractors. While the Scot, will not escape criticism after a draw against one of the worst sides in the league, the fight back meant, he did not feel the brunt of the home support's frustrations at the final whistle. However, it must be noted that the loud, boos after Burnley's second goal and at halftime illustrated how quickly the Hammers fans could voice their displeasure. And with this, with his ideal running out in the summer, Moyes' future has come under increasing scrutiny, and some fans, saved the Moyes out banner, during a defeat at Nottingham Forest last month. And, it was not even made easy for the Scotman, because a poor start to 2024 saw the Hammers go 8 matches without victory. But back-to-back victories against Brentford and Everton lifted Moyes' side, to 7th in the league. And they were actually expected to build on with another victory against Burnley at home. But in the end, they had to just be content with the point. And thanks to a player who has struggled to actually make an impact for the Hammers, Moyes threw on Danny Ings, after 82 minutes, and the former England international, who has actually struggled for game time since his £12 million move from Aston Villa last year in January, spared his side's blushes with a wonderfully timed first goal of the season. And ironically, it came against the club where he made a name for himself in the Premier League. So it's actually, you could tell he felt the emotions, and scoring against his former team, you could tell he felt the emotions. And it has actually been a difficult time for him at the London Stadium. But hopefully, with time, he will actually start to fire for West Ham and actually get those much needed goals and get some much needed minutes under his belt. As for Burnley, again, they mess up in the key moments of the game. Because you look at Burnley, they started at the bottom of the league after Sheffield United's draw at Bournemouth on Saturday, and they looked well placed to go back above the Blades, with what would have been a much needed victory. The first half was the perfect away performance. The Clarets played with energy, they were well organized, and whenever they needed to defend, they were rewarded with their sharp attacking play. However, the Hammers, reacted after the break, after the first 45, as one of the, suspected that they would be, and failings which have cost Burnley dearly this season reappeared. Kompany's team dropped more points from winning positions, taking the total of 20 points this season, while being unable to take their chances to score a third in a frantic, second half. And you look at the fact that if, you look at West Ham and Burnley not being more clinical, I think Burnley will actually live on to regret this moment, because they should have really been more clinical. They should have showed more desire and more, hunger up front to actually seal all 3 points, because there would have been a much needed 3 points for, the Clarets. And again, we go straight to the Villa Park. It was Aston Villa taking on Tottenham Hotspur. Basically, it's fourth versus fifth. Yeah, fourth versus fifth. So yeah, it's a matter of which team wants to qualify for the Champions League next season. And which team will qualify for that last spot, of the Champions League qualification, So, yeah, man, it was an incredible game to actually watch, man. But very surprised by the result. I was expecting a very tight game, closely contested game, but hey, the result says it wasn't. And even the performance from both sides, it shows that it was more dominant from the one side. And the scoreline is just an icing on the cake of that. We saw Brennan, Johnson scoring his fourth goal of the season, which actually gave Spurs a 2-goal early cushion, in the second half. And Tottenham, boosted their hopes of a top 4 Premier League finish with an emphatic victory over 10-man Aston Villa at Villa Park. So, in an encounter, billed as a pivotal, in the race for, a spot in next season's Champions League. Early second half goals from James Maddison as well as Brennan Johnson, set Spurs well on their way. And, and a seemingly leg-weary Villa side, who played Ajax on Thursday evening, they really looked capable of clawing their way back into the contest, once after captain John McGinn was dismissed for a reckless tackle on visiting left-back, Destiny Udogie in the 65th minute. With Spurs, in complete control in the closing stages of the game. What we saw stoppage time goals from Son Heung-min as well as Timo Werner. It only served to rub salt into Aston Villa's wounds. And the hosts, remain fourth in the table, but they are only 2 points above Ange Postecoglou's Spurs, who have a game in hand. So it was basically an underwhelming first half period, which had seen the teams cancel each other out with Johnson's low attempted cross from the left, which was easily gathered by the home goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez. The closest thing to resembling a shot on target, however, was Pape Matasar's superb cross, from a right side saw Maddison, prod in shortly after the break, and when the home defender Ezri Konsa carelessly gave possession away deep in his own half, Johnson collected Son's pass to actually double Tottenham and Hotspur's lead. So, like I say, man, it was just a completely emphatic performance by Spurs. After they scored the second goal, you could tell that, no, the game is done and dusted. And with the home stands, already emptying early on in 10 minutes added times, 10 minutes added. The South Korean forward, Son swept home his 159th goal for the North London club and provided Werner an opportunity with the German-placed, close range shot finding the right corner. And it was actually a scintillating Spurs, performance, which actually punished Aston Villa because Aston Villa are actually aiming to reach the Europa Elite Club competition for the first time since they were the defending champions in 1982-1983. And the fact that, the skipper, John McGinn, labelled their meeting with Tottenham the most important game in the club's recent history. Prior to kickoff, it was, but you look at how things unfolded at the Villa Park, the first half in which, they continuously attempted to play on the counter-attack. There were already signs of a fourth consecutive league victory. So, however, in the first half, Aston Villa, they continuously attempted, to play on the counter-attack. There were already signs of a fourth consecutive league victory, that might have not been forthcoming. They did show plenty of application, there was very little by the way of quality in the final third, and they were not helped by Ollie Watkins struggling off the back of an early kick from Tottenham's Dutch centre-back, Mickey van der Ven, and with Spurs having enjoyed, the benefit of full week to prepare, their sharpness and greater intensity told after the break because, Sal's willingness to run beyond the Villa, the high defensive Aston Villa line to brilliantly supply Maddison sparked Spurs into life. And we saw Konsa's careless, pass towards Yuri Tielemans provided a further helping hand, as did McGinn's red card, which told in the later stages that, allowing the visitors to pick Villa off to conclude a scintillating, second half display. So yeah, that was a great victory for Spurs, man. Great victory for them. And now, they just 2 points off Aston Villa with the game in hand. Literally. Yeah, literally. Like I said. So, it's getting heated, man. It's really getting heated. The Premier League title race is getting heated. Spots for the Champions League are also getting heated. And yeah, another game. Brighton clinching a victory over Nottingham Forest at the American Express Community Stadium. It was actually an Andrew Omo Bamidele, own goal, who scored the own goal to actually give Brighton a victory and dent Nottingham Forest's chances of Premier League survival. The Nottingham Forest defender, unfortunately turned, Pascal Gross's curling free kick into his own net, in the after, as we were approaching the half-hour mark, he turned the ball into his own net, unfortunately. And it was Nuno Espirito Santos' side that actually pushed in search for an equaliser after the break. But, there was just a lack of quality. Nottingham Forest, they just lacked quality in the final third, which actually meant that, they failed to salvage a crucial point. And another thing is that, the defeat now leaves them just 3 points above 18th place Luton Town, in the relegation zone. Although the Hatters, have a game in hand. And returning from a 4-0 thumping by Roma in the Europa League, on Thursday, Brighton dominated both possession and chances in the first half. And Jakub Moder's glancing header, called Forest goalkeeper Matt Sells, into action, while even Ferguson, came close to netting his first goal since November's meeting with the same opponents, but he just couldn't squeeze in at the near post. So it was just the Seagulls. It was all the Seagulls, because the Seagulls, they just continued to keep on pushing. They kept on pushing. They kept on probing. And they were eventually rewarded when Irishman, Omo Bamidele, who was lucky to avoid a second yellow card for fouling Ansu Fati, on the edge of the box, nodded the resulting free kick into his own net. So it's like you cause the free kick, you cause an unnecessary free kick, and then you score an own goal just seconds later. That's not a way to make a mark, man. That's just a bad day in the office for him. And Forest, should have leveled straight away, but Divock Origi, he couldn't fire past, but Verbruggen, went one-on-one with the Brighton goalkeeper. The visitors were really strong after the break, and it was just a fingertip save from Verbruggen, which denied Chris Wood in the only time they looked remotely like scoring. Forest, from that particular moment in time, yes, they did look like scoring, and surely they could feel aggrieved, by the fact that, Brighton were not reduced to 10 men in the 67th minute after a starts-up challenge by a model, on Neco Williams. But the video assistant referee deemed the yellow card sufficient after a 2-minute review. But like I said, VAR does make mistakes. They are not always accurate in their decisions. And Brighton did respond well after the Roma rout. Brighton's landmark trip, to Rome may not have turned out as planned, but this hard-fought, win will help them boost a morale among Roberto De Zerbi's men. And it wasn't a short first-half performance from the home side. While their chances were limited in the second half, they controlled the game in the dying moments to actually ensure that they took all 3 points. And the Seagulls, will play the return leg of the Europa League tie on Thursday. But after Roma's dominant display, their chances of reaching the quarterfinals of the Europa League look very unlikely. So that makes their remaining 10 Premier League games all more important, with places for European competition still up for grabs. And Brighton now move up to 8th, 11 points off 5th place Tottenham. And I can just say, on the side of Nottingham Forest, they just lacked, the clinical edge in front of goal. Forest, were furious this time, last weekend, incensed by the referee Paul Tierney's decision to controversially hand Liverpool possession back via drop ball before Darwin Núñez snatched a dramatic 99th minute winner. While Moder's challenge on Williams was a nasty one, it was actually difficult to see, Michael Salisbury's decision to show a yellow card as a clear and obvious area. And the club are still waiting, the outcome of their ongoing Premier League hearing for breaching financial rules, with the news of possible points deduction expected to come in the next few weeks. And with 10 games left, Forest also need to find a clinical edge in front of goal and help them keep them out of trouble. So they will actually be boosted by Chris Wood's return from injury. But the New Zealand forward, had a few opportunities in the first start, since suffering a hamstring injury in late January. And what I can just say is that Luton play their game in hand at Bournemouth, on Wednesday evening, and have the chance to actually go level on points with Nottingham Forest, before the two meet in a crucial clash at Kenilworth Road on Saturday, right? So it's actually going to be a very important, few last remaining games for Nottingham Forest if they are to salvage their Premier League season, because at this particular moment in time things look very dire for them, and if they continue not to convert their chances, they will rue those chances and they will drop to the Championship next season. Right, as we conclude, the big one, Liverpool versus Manchester City. It was basically a title, the race for the title, type clash. And it was a game where you could tell that it was a title decider. But it's not actually a title decider entirely, due to the fact that Manchester City still have to play Arsenal at the Etihad in just the next week. So Arsenal currently they top the lead based on the fact that they have a better head-to-head record over Liverpool and a better goal difference. So yeah, man, that's just the way it is. That's why you have to put the ball in the back of the net, take your chances, because goal difference does matter come end of the season. And yes, the score resulted in a 1-1 draw at Anfield. It was an incredible encounter to actually watch, for the fact that this is Jurgen Klopp's last meeting against Pep Guardiola in the Premier League. So history, it was a historic game to actually say the least. And which team was going to claim the bragging rights? I obviously fancied Liverpool because of home ground advantage, and Jurgen Klopp's final season at Anfield needs to be a special one. It really needs to be a special one, and I was just hoping that his players could do that for him. Yes, it was one of those pulsating games, to say the least. It was scintillating. And Alexis Mac Allister, has now converted 9 of his 10 penalties in the Premier League, including, each of his last 8. So Liverpool and Manchester City, they fought out, a thrilling draw at Anfield to actually leave Arsenal top of the Premier League table. But, Arsenal fans shouldn't be excited yet. The league is not yours yet, guys. Relax. The league is not yet yours. There's still 10 games to go, so calm down. You still have to play Manchester City at the Etihad. You still have to play Chelsea at home, and those are not going to be easy encounters for you guys. You still have to travel to Old Trafford. Yes, I guess, we can say that Arsenal is going to be an easy victory for them at Old Trafford, considering the fact that Manchester United haven't been at their best this season, but they're still Manchester United. The big club status, Old Trafford, home ground advantage will still count for them. So yeah, this meeting of, the preeminent domestic powers of recent years, it did live up to its billing and expectations in an encounter of the highest quality, in which both sides, had the chances to claim a vital victory, a vital 3 points, right? So what I could just say to you is that Manchester City, they were much better. They started the game much better, even though it was end-to-end stuff in the first game, in the first few minutes of the game, right? But Manchester City took a 23rd minute lead, when a sleek corner routine caught Liverpool called an off guard, as John Stones turned in Kevin De Bruyne's delivery at the near post. It reminds you of the same thing that Alexander-Arnold did, against Barcelona in the second leg of the UEFA Champions League 2019 game. Extraordinary comeback from Liverpool, and when Divock Origi was there at the near post to turn in the ball home. So City deserved the lead. That was just some, slick play from Kevin De Bruyne. Very clever play once again, and City, they really deserved the lead, but they were pegged back, when they conceded a penalty on 84 seconds after the interval, and Darwin Núñez was sent crashing to the ground by keeper Ederson after intercepting Nathan Ake's poor back pass. And shortly after the delay, Alexis Mac Allister scored the spot kick, and Ederson, who was injured in the incident, tried to play on initially, but facing the penalty, and he was beaten to actually continue, but he couldn't continue, man. So he had to be replaced by the German goalkeeper Stefan Ortega. And as Liverpool, turned on the heat, the full power in front of an expectant, Anfield, Luis Diaz missed a glaring chance, when he was put through by substitute Mohamed Salah, and that could have been an instant impact, from the Egyptian. While Ortega, initially blocked, that was just a crucial block to actually deny the Uruguayan striker Darwin Núñez. And City, from that particular moment in time, they had chances of their own, as Liverpool goalkeeper Kelleher, blocked a shot from Foden, and then Gallagher, also had a lucky escape when he punched Ake's cross into Foden, and then the rebound came crashing against the bar, while Jeremy Doku also struck the post late on. And Liverpool will also feel that they had strong penalty claims, and rightfully so, because Doku's foot was very high on Mac Allister in the dying seconds, but nothing was given. Even VAR. But VAR, man. Yes, like I said, VAR, their decisions are not always spot on, and again, that was a penalty for me. Doku, high boot, that was dangerous play. That was a penalty for me. But these two outstanding sides, they just could not be separated on the day, which means for now, it's advantage Arsenal in the title race. But Arsenal fans, my advice to you guys, don't get too excited yet. Relax. The title race is not yet done. It's not yet over. But as you look at it, Liverpool did actually show some huge character. Liverpool initially struggled, to actually impose themselves on Manchester City. And their first half efforts were actually frantic in comparison to the visitors. They had more measured, the visitors, had a more measured approach to the game. And they were never out of contention, however, despite trailing to Stones' goal. Liverpool, and once they were thrown a lifeline as, Mac Allister's equaliser following Ake's error, Liverpool showed that a relentless edge to attack that almost brought them, to victory. And City also had clear chances of their own too. Diaz will actually wonder how he missed, their best chance when he was sent clear by a magnificent Salah. And the Egyptians' first touch after coming on as a substitute on the hour mark, that was a delightful ball. Diaz was full of energy and pace throughout, but he was just wasteful in the vital moments. Even his family was watching there, in the Anfield stands. And Liverpool, will be very disappointed with the fact that, they have conceded, the Premier League leadership to Arsenal this weekend, but they are still, in an outstanding position as the season enters its final stretch. And after a fearless approach of Jurgen Klopp's side, which they demonstrated once again that they put themselves back in the game, which means that, they can enter, this defining period with confidence. And as for Manchester City, I just have got some mixed feelings for them because Manchester City, have had tough times at Anfield in recent years, but this will rank among their most composed displays. Despite the second half where Liverpool slaughtered them to the core. After Mac Allister's equaliser and the loss to Ederson via injury, that's the reason why I could say they could be mixed feelings for Guardiola, because he knows that his side were exerting a strong measure of control until Nathan Ake's dreadful back pass. Not only, did it offer Liverpool a way back into the game, it also led, an incident that was actually forced, to see Ederson being replaced. City, posed, a huge threat even when Liverpool went through the gears in the second half, cursing their luck when Foden hit the bar and then the rebound of Kelleher's punch. Then Doku also hit the post. But the immediate concern will also be for Ederson's injury. But, there was still much to admire, in City's display, especially the outstanding Rodri. Although KDB was also visibly unhappy when he was actually replaced by Mateo Kovacic after 69 minutes. But in the end, City will take the point at Anfield and move on. Although they may feel that they let 3 points escape by their grasp because of Ake's self-inflicted wound. And it was, honest. Even after a magnificent game, Arsenal are the big winners of the weekend, but not the big winners of the Premier League. So, Arsenal fans, please don't get too excited. You understand? Because you guys are just 1 point ahead of City. Yes, City are still in third, just a point behind Liverpool and Arsenal in second and first respectively. Arsenal lead the table due to the fact that they've got a better goal difference than Liverpool, and the fact that they're just a point above Man City in third. So Arsenal fans, relax, chill man, chill.